Hello there, you're watching Liquid Lunch on Biz TV. I'm Frank Morano. John Tobacco will join me in just a moment. A whole lot going on around the country, around the world, quite frankly, and we're going to cover as much as we possibly can within the next 2 hours. One of the more shocking things, in my judgment, is what we're seeing out of Minneapolis. Now, Minneapolis is where the most recent news tidal wave began a couple of weeks ago with the tragic murder of George Floyd. And it's also where we saw some of the more thunderous riots, for lack of a better description, including a police precinct that was actually surrendered to the rioters and set ablaze. Apparently, now what we're seeing out of Minneapolis is the Minneapolis City Council is now prepared to disband their own police department. Now, you heard me correctly. They're prepared to disband their police department, not defund, not reform, not reimagine. They're just going to get rid of it and essentially replace the job of police, as I understand it, with the things that police would normally do are going to be done by paramedics and social workers. Now, the question I have is, if you see someone who's being assaulted, if you see someone who's being raped, if someone breaks into your house because they think you have nice things and they think those things would be better used in their ownership, what are you supposed to do? Are you supposed to call a paramedic? Are you supposed to call a social worker? Social worker, please go stop the armed bandit that's currently stealing my flat screen television. To me, this is absolute lunacy. I understand that the police are there are police departments around the country in need of maybe some reform, maybe some reimagining. And you know what? We have some very progressive police chiefs around the country that have been at the forefront of allowing police officers to de-escalate conflict with perps. This is not the answer. This is a disaster. And apparently, this is only the tip of the iceberg. We're going to get into the political ramifications of this in just a couple of minutes with Jaden Horan. And we'll discuss with John Tobacco, who, of course, is the son of a police officer himself, what he thinks this would look like if it were to take place in New York. Now, I know a lot of New Yorkers are watching, and you may think it can't happen here. I would have always thought the same thing. Yesterday, Bill de Blasio comes out and says he's going to be supportive of drastic reductions to the New York City Police Department budget and reinvesting that money into the community. Now, budget cuts in and of itself are not a bad thing. It's always nice to hear our leaders, especially when they're presiding over an $80 or $90 billion city budget, talk about cutting. I think every agency could actually use some cuts, including the police department, by the way. There are 18,000 civilian employees of the NYPD. That means that we have almost two cops per civilian employee. So there's definitely some fat to cut. But these cuts should be done with a scalpel, not an axe. And they should be done to make the department run more efficiently, not to settle some sort of political score. That's my take. We'll hear a diversity of opinion on this subject and a host of other issues, including, by the way, former Bush Secretary of State Colin Powell saying that he's actually going to vote for Joe Biden. Not terribly much of a surprise to me. We'll talk to Jaden Horan next and find out if it was a surprise to him. We'll also get into this incredible job numbers that we saw on Friday. Biggest job gain in history. We'll get into that. You're watching Liquid Lunch on Biz TV. I'm Frank Morano.